Question 26 is a critical thinking question, which is asking us which of the following is the best statement of the flaw in the argument. So let's look through the argument. The sale of self-help books that claim to reveal the secrets of happiness generated $10 billion in 2009, but if you want to become more contented with life, you shouldn't read these books because reading them will have the opposite effect. Researchers at the University of Montreal found that those who have read such books were more likely to be anxious or depressed than those who have never read them. So, which of the following is the best statement of the flaw in the argument? We know the argument, let's have a look at the potential flaws. So option A, the first candidate for the best statement of the flaw in the argument, says that becoming more contented with life may be an unrealistic goal. Now, is this a flaw in the argument? Well, not especially, because the argument seems to set out a framework for how you can become more contented with life by just avoiding certain books, which appears pretty realistic, and the statement doesn't appear to be much of a forceful statement of the flaw because it says maybe. So we can say that this isn't much in the way of a flaw. Moving on to option B, it says that being anxious and depressed may prompt people to read self-help books. Now this is a flaw because we're told that people who are more likely to be anxious and depressed have read them. So if people who are more anxious and depressed read them, then that explains that correlation rather than the fact that the books cause the anxiousness and depression. It's actually the fact that anxious and depressed people read the books that this correlation exists. So there is no causation, there is only a correlation, and this explains the correlation. Option C for a potential flaw is that some of those who have never read self-help books may be anxious and depressed. Now, whether or not this is the case, this doesn't contradict the argument, because we're told that those who read such books are more likely to be anxious and depressed than those who have never read them. So obviously there will be some people within this cohort who are anxious and depressed, but the fact is that those who read the books are more likely to be so. So this is not a flaw. Now option D says that the flaw is that some people who are anxious and depressed may never read self-help books. Now, whether or not this is the case, the point is that the argument's saying that if they did, then they would become more anxious and depressed than they otherwise are. So this is not a flaw in the argument. We can say that our flaw is answer B, that being anxious and depressed may prompt people to read self-help books, which is a potential alternative reason for the correlation than the one suggested, which says that those who read books become anxious and depressed rather than those who are anxious and depressed reading the books.